It's an honor to communicate with my colleagues at Masaryk University. We actually have a statue of Thomas Masaryk down the street from our institution here at the Peterson Institute in Washington, D.C. And while I'm disappointed that I'm not able to visit you in the Czech Republic, if you're ever in Washington and you stop by the Peterson Institute, I'll take you down the street and show you the statue of your university's namesake. But I've been asked to discuss contemporary developments in North Korea and in the North Korean economy. And what I'll do is talk for a couple minutes about internal changes, a bit about North Korea's external economic relations, and then finally what we might expect for the future. In terms of the internal organization of the North Korean economy, the key issue is that the marketization of the North Korean economy that we have observed over the past 15 to 20 years was fundamentally a product of state failure. This is something that came from the bottom up. It was not an intended, planned, proactive, top-down reform, but rather it was the result of coping behavior that small-scale social units, households, work units, local government offices, local party offices, even military units undertook to access food during the famine period of the 1990s. And as a consequence, the state has never been fully comfortable with these developments and at times tends to repress them. And indeed, the trend since 2005 has been towards greater repression of the markets rather than supporting their development. The North Korean economy could be characterized as being increasingly unequal and corrupt. Clearly, some people have benefited from those changes over the last 15 to 20 years. If one is a member of the elite, if one has access to foreign currency, there is clearly a wider range of goods and services available for consumption today than there was 10 or certainly 20 years ago. For example, Roscom, the Egyptian cell phone firm, has announced that it has 1 million subscribers in North Korea. Now, I don't know if anybody's audited those statements, but nevertheless, one sees people in Pyongyang with cell phones, people's increasing number of private automobiles on the road. So clearly some people have benefited from these changes. But for the mass of the North Korean people, they face problems of chronic food insecurity and stagnating, if not falling, incomes. To make matters worse, we find that the penal system is increasingly used as a mechanism for extortion and economic predation on the population. Since 2005, legal changes have criminalized much of the behavior in the market economy, and so roughly speaking, all North Korean, non-elite North Koreans today probably run afoul of some one of these regulations or strictures in their daily lives. This gives the police enormous opportunity to extract money from these people. They will stop people on the street. They will indicate that they believe that they've broken some law. And the people are well aware that they can be incarcerated without trial in facilities in which human rights abuses are absolutely horrendous. Even in the lowest level facilities, the so-called labor training centers, where most of these economic or so-called economic criminals are housed, we find in our refugee survey that an individual spending a typical stay of a number of months in such a facility has a 60% likelihood of seeing somebody executed. So given that the police have complete discretion over who they arrest, who they incarcerate in such facilities, and importantly, when those people are released, it is a powerful instrument for extracting bribes. People will pay bribes to avoid themselves or their families being entangled in this system. Externally, China accounts for about half of North Korea's trade. Sometimes one reads much higher figures on the order of 80%, but that is due to fundamental misunderstandings of the data. Nevertheless, China is the primary economic patron of North Korea. China's economic interaction with North Korea really has three modalities. There is a straight aid relationship where China provides aid to North Korea. There is what I would call politicized trade, in which Chinese state-owned enterprises are instructed to maintain relations with North Korean state-owned enterprises, sometimes allowing them to build up large arrears or debts in the process. And then over the last 15 to 20 years, we've observed a decentralized, market-conforming, profit-oriented pattern of trade developing between North Korea and China. In the last 18 months or so, the government has been trying to repress that third category, that decentralized market-conforming trade, and replace it with economic interactions with China that are done much more through channels that are controlled much more tightly by the decision makers in Pyongyang. The Chinese, we find from surveys that we've done of Chinese businesses operating in North Korea, regard the North Koreans as fantastically corrupt, and as a consequence, they engage in hedging strategies, a variety of sorts, to limit their exposure. If North Korea were able to improve its institutions, improve its transparency and governance, there would be an enormous increase in cross-border exchange, and importantly, much more investment. Many Chinese will not invest in North Korea precisely because they fear expropriation. Interestingly enough, in terms of the nuclear issues that have been in the headlines, North Korea seems relatively immune to either sanctions or inducements. China, its largest trade partner, shows absolutely no interest in implementing sanctions that the UN Security Council has passed. And now we have a situation in which North Korea has had a leadership change and most recently done a nuclear deal with the United States. That nuclear deal, I think, is a positive outcome. For one thing, it shows that somebody is in charge in North Korea and capable of making decisions. Secondly, that first major decision has been a conciliatory rather than a confrontational decision. And indeed, it's actually even a concessional decision. The sort of food for nukes deal that was under discussion at the end of December, there was agreement on the types of protocols that would be followed in terms of the distribution of aid, but there was a disagreement over the amount of aid. The United States said North Korea needed 240,000 metric tons. The North Koreans believed that what they were negotiating over was the residual from an earlier program that had been suspended, and that was 330,000 metric tons. The fact that the North Koreans compromised for the lower U.S. figure shows that somebody is not only in charge in North Korea, but they're capable of making concessions. This deal will not end the North Korean nuclear program, nor will it solve North Korea's chronic food insecurity problems, but I think it's a valuable first step and may lead as a springboard to re-engagement in broader negotiations through the six-party talks that may make further progress in constraining the North Korean nuclear and missile programs. It's been my great honor to communicate with you, and a disappointment that I'm not able to join you today. But I would like to close with a reminder that if you're ever in Washington, please stop by the Peterson Institute, and I'll take you down the street to show you the statue of Thomas Masaryk. Thank you.